My name is Michael Jensen. I'm 47 years old. I used to be a skeptic, the kind of person who rolled their eyes at stories like the one I'm about to tell you. But after what I experienced, after what I was shown during those moments when my heart stopped, I can't dismiss it. August is coming, and with it, something that will change everything. I saw it. I lived it. And now I have to warn you. Last week, I died while working outside our little town in eastern Oklahoma. I've been a firefighter for over 20 years. Before that, I chased storms. That's what folks around here used to know me for. I'd be the guy speeding down dirt roads in an old Ford pickup with the scanner turned up loud, watching the sky twist and boil. I loved it back then, something about the danger, the rush, the raw power of nature. But somewhere along the way, that thrill faded. Life got quieter, heavier. I live in a small house on the edge of town with my wife, Karen. We've been married since we were 19, high school sweethearts. Everyone said we wouldn't make it, but we did, mostly. We never had kids, just didn't happen for us. That was a quiet grief we carried together without saying much. We filled the silence with work, routine, and pretending we were okay with it. Most days we were. Some days, not so much. I used to believe in God. I was raised in church. My mama was the choir leader, and my dad was one of those fix anything with duct tape and a prayer kind of guys. But something broke in me the day my little brother, Danny, was killed. It was 2 years ago. He was just picking up a bag of flour at the store when a man walked in with a gun. 12 people died that day. Danny was one of them. I remember getting the call while I was on duty. I didn't even cry at first. Just stood there, staring at the floor of the station kitchen like it had answers. But the grief came later, like a wave that never stopped crashing. After that, I stopped praying. I didn't stop believing exactly. I just stopped talking to God. I figured he wasn't listening, or worse, he didn't care. I kept showing up to work. I kept fixing things around the house. I even kept going to church with Karen once in a while. But something in me had gone cold. I became good at pretending. You know that kind of numb where you're not exactly sad but nothing feels worth feeling? That was me. I wasn't angry all the time, I was just tired. I started spending more nights in the garage, working on old equipment from the firehouse. Karen would ask if I was okay. I'd shrug. Just tired, babe. She knew better, but she stopped pushing. We were both walking around each other like ghosts. There were nights I'd lie awake and think about how I used to care, how I used to believe that what I did mattered, that people could change, that God was real and good. Now everything felt hollow. Maybe you know what that's like, to look fine on the outside but feel like something inside you quietly died a long time ago. Maybe you've gone through the motions hoping something, anything, would break the silence. I didn't realize how bad it had gotten until the week leading up to July 30th. The heat wave was brutal. We'd been called out to clear brush and old propane tanks from the edge of a mobile home park, trying to prevent fires before they started. I was working with a new guy, Caleb, fresh out of training. Young, hopeful, he reminded me of myself 20 years ago. Always asking questions, always looking up to the older guys like we had the answers. That day, I remember feeling lightheaded before we even left the truck. I blamed it on skipping breakfast. Karen had made eggs, but I didn't eat. I'd been skipping a lot of meals without noticing. Too much coffee. Too little rest. The stress was building up in ways I didn't admit to anyone, not even myself. The sun was relentless. I kept wiping sweat off my face, blinking hard to stay focused. Caleb asked if I was okay. I told him I was fine. I wasn't fine. We were dragging a rusted-out water heater toward the back of the truck when it happened. I felt a strange buzzing behind my eyes, like a light bulb about to pop. Then, a sharp pain in my head, like someone cracked it open with a hammer. My legs gave out. I hit the dirt hard, face first. I heard shouting, Caleb's voice, panicked and distant. Then sirens. Then nothing. And I mean nothing. There was no tunnel, no bright light. Not at first, just quiet. You know that moment when everything slows down and the noise of the world disappears. That's what it felt like someone hit pause on the universe. Before I tell you what I saw on the other side, I want you to know something important. I didn't feel ready. I wasn't at peace. I wasn't brave or holy or hopeful. I was just a broken man with more questions than answers, more guilt than grace. I had regrets, things I said in anger, things I never said when I should have. The years I pulled away from Karen instead of reaching out. The way I closed my heart after Danny died and never really opened it again. If you've ever felt like you lost your way somewhere along the road, like the life you're living isn't the one you dreamed of, then maybe you'll understand where I was. I think everyone has felt like that at some point. Lost. Disconnected. Carrying silent pain behind a tired smile. And maybe that's the very reason I saw what I did next. Because Jesus didn't come to perfect people. He came to the weary, the wounded, the ones still bleeding on the inside, while trying to hold everything together on the outside. The next part of my story is hard to explain, but I promise you, I'll do my best. What I saw after I died, it changed everything. And it wasn't just for me, it was for you, too. The moment my heart stopped, I didn't know I was dead. 1 second I was lying in the dirt with the world spinning and my ears full of noise, sirens, footsteps, voices shouting my name. Then nothing, not black, not sleep, just stillness. It felt like the noise of the world got pulled away, like someone unplugged a machine that had been humming for years. And in that silence, something inside me whispered, "This is it." I wish I could say I was brave, but I wasn't. I was scared. Not of where I was going, but of everything I hadn't done. The things I hadn't said to Karen, the years I wasted pretending I was fine, the wall I built between me and God. I wanted to scream, "Wait, I'm not ready." But I couldn't speak. I couldn't move. Then something strange happened. I felt my body fall away. That's the only way I can describe it. Like stepping out of an old coat, I was no longer lying on the ground. I was above it, floating maybe 10, 12 feet up, looking down at the scene. And there I was, my body, motionless in the dust. Paramedics kneeling over me. Caleb pacing nearby, hands in his hair, panicked. One of the medics shouted, "No pulse!" I remember thinking, that can't be me. I'm here. I feel alive. I could see everything so clearly, not just the shapes and colors, but the emotions. The weight of people's thoughts, the energy in the air, the unspoken fear. It was like I was inside the moment and outside it all at once. And then the world began to fade, not like fading to black, more like fading into light. It started around the edges, soft, golden, warm, like sunrise filtering through fog. The dirt, the grass, the flashing lights, they all blurred. But I wasn't afraid anymore. I felt curious, calm, like I was being pulled somewhere I was supposed to go. Then I felt movement, not flying exactly, but being drawn, like a current of wind or water was carrying me forward, gently but firmly. I wasn't walking, I wasn't struggling, I was just going. The farther I went, the more the light changed. It wasn't just bright, it was alive. Every inch of it felt full of peace, full of presence, full of something so pure it made me ache. And the strange thing was, I felt more myself than I ever had on earth. No pain in my chest, no weight on my shoulders, no sorrow dragging behind me, just me, clear, whole, and finally at peace. I passed through what I can only describe as a veil, a thin wall of shimmering light, and on the other side was a place I don't have the words for. It wasn't clouds and harps like people say. It wasn't empty space. It was home. The ground beneath me looked like light turned into matter, solid but soft, glowing but not harsh. There were colors I'd never seen before, sounds that didn't hurt your ears but filled your heart. Everything felt alive, not just alive like moving, but awake, aware. And then I felt him. Before I saw him, I felt him. Like the sun was rising inside my chest, only it wasn't burning. It was healing. Love, so deep, so strong, It knocked the breath out of me. Not the kind of love we talk about here on earth. This love knew me. It saw everything, every failure, every dark thought, every mistake, and didn't flinch. Then he appeared, Jesus. He didn't come walking down a golden road or glowing like a cartoon. He was simple, real, human, and holy at the same time. Dressed plainly, like someone you might pass on the street and not notice, but once you looked into his eyes, you'd never forget. His eyes. That's the part I keep coming back to. They were full of sorrow and compassion, not disappointment, not anger, but a sadness so deep it made me want to fall to my knees and apologize for every time I had ignored him. And yet, I felt no judgment, only love, endless, aching, patient love. I stood frozen, tears pouring down my face, though I didn't even realize I was crying. My chest shook with sobs, but not from shame, from relief. I didn't have to hide anymore, not from him, not from myself. Jesus stepped closer. He didn't speak right away. He just looked at me the way no one's ever looked at me in my life, like I mattered, like I was worth it. Then he opened his arms, and I collapsed into him. I cried like a child, ugly broken sobs from the depths of my soul. Years of pain poured out of me, grief for Danny, regret for my cold heart, guilt for how I pulled away from Karen, sorrow for every night I stared at the ceiling wondering if God still cared. Jesus held me. He didn't rush me. He didn't interrupt. He just stayed there, arms around me, solid and warm, like an anchor in a storm I didn't know I'd been drowning in. He whispered, "I've missed you, Mike." And that was it. That simple sentence undid me, because in that moment I realized something that changed everything. He had never left. All those years I thought God had turned away after Danny died. He was there, in the silence, in the aching, in the numbness. I was the one who stopped listening, but he never stopped loving me. I felt seen, not just the parts I showed people, but the parts I hid, the weak parts, the angry parts, the tired, doubting, "What's the point of any of this?" parts. And instead of being rejected, I was embraced. You know that moment when you finally let go of the breath you didn't even know you were holding? That's what it felt like to be in his presence. Pure safety, total love, complete understanding. I don't know how long I stayed there. Time didn't feel the same. It was like being held in a moment that never had to end. Eventually, he pulled back just enough to look me in the eyes again. And what he said next. That's when the real journey began. But before I tell you about that, I want you to know this. If you've ever felt too broken, too lost, too far gone, if you've ever yelled at God, or cursed his name, or sat in silence wondering if he even exists, he still loves you. He's not afraid of your questions. He's not disgusted by your pain. He's waiting for you, not with a lecture, but with open arms. And what he showed me after that moment, the vision, the warning, the truth about what's coming, it's not about fear, it's about mercy. I'll tell you everything he revealed. But first, you need to understand why. Because this story isn't just about disasters or prophecy. It's about hearts. Broken ones, like mine, like yours, and the God who came to heal them. Jesus pulled back just enough to look into my eyes again, but his hands never left my shoulders. His touch was steady, like he knew if he let go, I might fall apart all over again. And maybe I would have. I didn't want to speak. I didn't even want to breathe. I just wanted to stay there, close enough to feel his presence, safe enough to stop pretending I was okay. But he spoke first. "Mike," he said softly, "you've carried so much alone." I dropped my head. I didn't know what else to do. "I know," he said, "but you were never meant to carry it all." That's when the tears came again. Not the ugly sobs from before, but a quieter kind of crying, the kind that comes when someone finally understands the pain you've stopped trying to explain. He didn't rush me. Just let the silence stretch for a moment, holding it like something sacred. "You buried your brother and thought I was silent," he said gently. I nodded. He was a good man. He just went to get groceries. Jesus' eyes filled again with sorrow. The world is broken, Mike. I never wanted violence. I never wanted death. But I gave mankind choice, and they've used it to hurt each other, again and again. I felt the old anger start to rise, the question that had haunted me for 2 years. Why didn't you stop it? Jesus looked into me, not just at me, but into me. Because I don't control love, I invite it. I don't force change, I offer it, and I mourn every choice that leads to destruction. He paused, letting that truth settle in my chest. There are children, he continued, who cry out every night, abused, ignored, starving, not only for food, but for kindness, and many who could help don't. They turn away, they grow numb, they get distracted, and that numbness becomes normal. I swallowed hard. That hit deeper than I expected. He was describing me. You were one of them, Mike, not a bad man, but a numb one. You stopped feeling because it hurt too much to feel. He was right. Somewhere between losing Danny and losing my way, I'd shut off the part of me that used to care deeply. Not just about my family, about everything, about people, about God. Jesus went on. You saw suffering and thought it meant I was gone, but I was there, in every rescue, every quiet kindness, every tear you cried that no one else saw. I was there, grieving with you. He touched my chest lightly. I never left. And then, like a wave, I felt something break inside me. Grief, guilt, shame. It all poured out at once. I should have done more, I whispered. I should have been better. I should have prayed. I should have talked to Karen. I shut down. Jesus nodded. Yes, you did. His honesty didn't sting, it freed me. He wasn't pretending I hadn't failed, but he didn't hold it against me either. I didn't need you to be perfect, he said. I needed you to stay open, to stay soft, even when it hurt. I looked down, quiet. I thought I was protecting myself. You were protecting your pain, he said, but you were also blocking your purpose. That's when he turned, and suddenly the light shifted around us, like a veil was being pulled back. He stretched out his hand, and in an instant, I saw it. A vision, not a dream, not imagination, a real, living vision that wrapped around us like a storm of truth. I saw the earth, cracking, burning, flooding, shaking, cities underwater, forests on fire, buildings trembling. But more than that, I saw people, screaming, running, lost, some in panic, some blaming, some trying to help, but most just confused, desperate. And then Jesus spoke, not loudly but firmly, "These things are coming, not to destroy, but to awaken." I saw August 4th flash before my eyes like fire. Then August 11th, colder, more divisive, not just physical events, but emotional ones, splitting people apart. Some would argue about science, others would shout about politics, few would turn to God. "Why are you showing me this?" I asked, trembling. "Because you still have a voice," he said. I looked at him, stunned. "I died," he smiled gently. "You crossed over, but your time is not done." My heart sank a little. "You want me to go back?" He didn't answer right away. Instead, he brought another vision, this time not of disasters, but of faces. Children, teenagers, young adults, all wandering, all hurting. Some with phones glued to their hands, scrolling endlessly, some crying into pillows, some cutting themselves quietly, hoping someone will notice, some angry, shouting at a God they don't even believe in. "These are my children," Jesus said. "So many have never heard my voice. So many believe lies about me, that I am cruel, distant, unloving." I choked on tears. "What do you want me to do?" "Tell them the truth," he said, "that I see them, that I still speak, that judgment is real, but so is mercy, and mercy is here now." I shook my head slowly. "I'm not a preacher." "You're a witness," he said. "That's what I need." I hesitated, overwhelmed. "But I don't want to leave you." And I meant it. Being with him felt like home after a long, cold winter. There was no pain here, no confusion, no brokenness, just love. Jesus stepped forward and wrapped me in another embrace. I know. But they need what you've seen. I buried my face in his shoulder. What if they don't believe me? Some won't, he said, but that's not your burden. Yours is to speak. Mine is to stir their hearts. He pulled back, eyes searching mine. Mike, this is not about fear, it's about hope. If they turn now, if they humble themselves, forgive each other, return to me, I will heal what's broken. I nodded slowly, heart torn in two. One part wanted to stay. The other started to burn with something new. Purpose. Jesus touched my forehead, and suddenly I felt it. A fire, not like the fires I used to fight back home, but a fire in my spirit, burning with compassion, burning with truth, burning with urgency. I'll go, I whispered. Jesus smiled. Then I'll walk with you, every step, every word. You won't be alone. And with that, the light around us began to shift again, gently, like dawn after a long night. I wasn't falling, I wasn't being pushed, I was being sent. And even as I felt myself leaving that perfect love behind, something deep inside me knew I was bringing it with me. The first thing I remember was the sound, beeping, sharp, steady, piercing. Then came the weight, my body pressing down like a cinder block on my chest. I opened my eyes and everything was blurry, white lights, cold air, a mask over my face, voices muffled behind plastic and wires. I was back, and it hurt. Not just physically, though the pain in my head and chest was enough to make me want to sleep again, but emotionally, spiritually. I'd just come from the arms of Jesus. I had stood in the light. I had heard his voice. I had wept in his presence. And now, I was here, in a hospital bed, machines all around me, nurses rushing past like I was just another code they'd saved. For a second, I wanted to close my eyes and beg him to take me back. But then I remembered his words. You won't be alone. I turned my head slowly, and through the blur I saw her, Karen. She was curled in a chair beside me, head resting on her arms, her shoulders trembling. She looked smaller than I remembered, like she'd aged 5 years in a week. There were deep lines under her eyes. Her lips were moving quietly, praying. Something broke inside me again. For 2 years she'd been trying to reach the man I used to be. For 2 years I'd answered her pain with silence. She stayed anyway, loved me anyway. She opened her eyes and saw me watching her. "Mike?" she whispered. I tried to smile. My lips barely moved. She stood, almost knocked over the IV stand, and grabbed my hand. "You're back. Oh my God, you're back." She kissed my hand, my face, my forehead, sobbing now. I couldn't speak yet, but I looked at her with everything in me. And in that look, I think she saw it. I wasn't the same. The first few days were rough. The doctors couldn't believe I'd come back after nearly 10 minutes with no heartbeat. One of them called me a medical mystery. Another said, "We lost you and now you're sitting here talking like nothing happened." I just smiled and said, "It wasn't nothing." I waited a few days before telling Karen what I saw, not because I was scared she wouldn't believe me, but because I needed the strength to get through it without crying the whole time. But when I finally did, when I told her about Jesus, about the light, about the warning, she didn't blink. She just took my hand and said, "I believe you." Something changed in me after that. Everything, really. Before, I lived like work was the most important thing, like being useful made me valuable. I used to put in double shifts without thinking, take every emergency call, miss dinners, birthdays, and weekends because I thought I was doing something that mattered. Now, I wake up every morning and reach for Karen's hand before I even step out of bed. We talk more, real talk. Not just about bills or groceries or work, but about how we feel, what we need, where we're going. We started going for walks again, slow ones. We hold hands, we laugh. Sometimes we cry, but mostly we're just present. I don't check my phone every 5 minutes. I don't disappear into the garage to tinker with broken equipment so I can avoid my own broken heart. I don't run from silence anymore. I listen. I see people differently too. I used to walk past homeless folks on the street and assume they made bad choices. Now I wonder what pain they're carrying, what story they've never told. I started buying extra meals and handing them out with a smile, not just to feed them, but to see them. I've had more real conversations in the last 3 weeks than I've had in the last 5 years. I met a teenage girl at church last Sunday. Her eyes were hollow, her sleeves too long for the weather. I recognized the look, numb, tired, hurting. So I told her part of my story, just a little, enough to let her know she wasn't invisible. She cried, I cried, and I realized this is the work now. I don't rush anymore. When someone talks to me, I actually stop and look them in the eye. People can feel when you're really listening and when you're not. The guys at the firehouse say I seem lighter. Caleb, the rookie who was with me when I collapsed, calls me Lazarus. I told him it wasn't a joke. He asked what I saw. I told him. He didn't say much at first, but later he pulled me aside and said, I haven't prayed since my mom died, but I think I will tonight. I've started speaking at small gatherings, not preaching, just sharing, just telling the truth. I tell people about the love I felt, the kind of love that knows you completely and still wraps its arms around you. I tell them about the warning too, about August 4th, about August 11th. I don't try to sound dramatic. I just say what Jesus said. These judgments are not to destroy, but to awaken. Some people listen, some nod politely, some walk away. That's okay. Jesus told me not everyone would believe. That's not my job. My job is to speak. And maybe that's what I want to leave with you too. You don't have to have all the answers. You don't have to be perfect. You don't even have to understand everything. But you do have to choose. Choose to soften your heart. Choose to forgive. Choose to pay attention to what really matters before the ground starts shaking. Because whether you believe me or not, the shaking is coming. But so is mercy. I used to wake up every day with a kind of dread, like I was just waiting for something else to go wrong. But now, I wake up with a different kind of urgency, not fear, purpose. I want to look people in the eye and remind them that they are loved, seen, wanted. By the same Jesus who wrapped his arms around a broken-down firefighter and told him, I've missed you. If you're still breathing, it means your story isn't over. And if you feel far from God, please hear me when I say he's not far from you. He's been waiting, not to punish you, but to hold you, to walk with you, to give you peace in the middle of whatever storm you're in. I used to think dying was the end, but now I know it was the beginning of everything I'd forgotten: love, truth, grace, and most of all, hope.